Check out the latest drop with the Divine Warriors and Regal Guardians playmats. We got tons of other cool merch on the AVAULT store, and if you're located in the US or Canada, you can even get free shipping for orders over $100. Thank you guys for all the support, and this wouldn't be happening without you. BT14 is here, and my personal first pick of this set will be Loogamon. Like always, starting with our Digi-Egg cards, got 4 copies of Bowmon right here, which is the dedicated Digi-Egg card that you have to play in the whole Loogamon deck. It has a very, very unique inheritable. Its effect is that when a Digimon card with Dark Animal or SOC trait is trashed from your hand, this Digimon may Digivolve into that particular card that you trashed. This card is exceptionally well in helping you guys bridge into combos, especially when it comes to all your other effects, especially when it comes to attacking as well at the same time, which will showcase more exactly how the best usage on this egg is in the combo segment later on. Okay, so now let's get into our rookies. First and foremost, we definitely have to talk about the brand new Loogamon, which is a X antibody Dark Animal trait card. Pretty interesting because I wonder if this has anything to do with Alphamon later down the road, because that'd be really cool being X antibody itself. It has a start of main phase by placing one Eiji from your hand or trash underneath this Digimon's Digivolution sources. You get to gain a memory, which is really good, and accessing your Eiji, which we'll talk about later on, is one of the most crucial things about this particular deck. And its inheritable is your turn. Once per turn, you get to gain a memory back when you play a card with Dark Animal in its traits or SOC as well. Really important. It's any card, so even Eiji as a tamer counts, which is fantastic when it comes to comboing. Moving on, we got 4 copies of Dracmon, bringing back this card from BT9. Now, it's not a Dark Animal, it is an undead, so it doesn't really synergize when it comes to traits, but its on-play effect is also really crucial. Revealing the top 3 cards of your deck, you trash 1 card with Undead or Dark Animal and its traits among them, and you get to add the other Undead or Dark Animal to your hand, and then the 3rd card gets bottom deck. Now, this card is really important because you really want to be trashing and finding your pieces at the same time. So when you get those double hits, you can set up very nicely for your top end combo later on. It also has the inheritable of when attacking, this Digimon may Digivolve into a Digimon card with Undead or Dark Animal and its traits from your trash for its Digivolution cost. So it's almost like the Digi-Egg that we saw with Bowmon, which is really good because then you can actually extend your combos when you're attacking, and it does come in clutch every now and then, but this card is mainly you want to be hard playing it to search and find your pieces. As we continue with our more rookies, we got 2 copies of the BT14 Fenriloogamon, which has simply on deletion, draw 1, trash 1, and the inheritable end of opponent's turn, get to draw 1, then trash 1 card in your hand. This card is really just like a secondary rookie that you can get into and Digivolve if you really need to, but mainly, again, we play it specifically because of its Dark Animal trait. Then we have another Fenriloogamon, the one from the Advanced Digimon starter deck. This one is blocker, but this Digimon can't attack players, so it's also kind of nice if you ever want to play these kind of cards and you set up. Really important once again because they are Dark Animal in its traits. So I can see as we get more Dark Animals as we move along, we'll probably see more different replacements for these cards, but these are sort of my personal preferences at the moment. Moving into our level 4s, 4 copies of Loogamon, which is the champion version of Loogamon right here. Digivolving for 2, it has when attacking by trashing 1 card from your hand, you get to draw 1. Then if you have Eiji in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, you get to gain a memory. And then its inheritable is exactly the same as Loogamon. You get to gain a memory back when you play a card with Dark Animal or SOC in its traits. So very simple, really easy to understand. Pretty good card there for sure. Next, we got another Dark Animal right here. We got Fangmon, which also debuted from BT14. This card is really nice because it has a 4-play hard play cost, or it has a when attacking effect as well. Return 1 purple card with Dark Animal traits from your trash back to your hand, and you trash 1 card from your hand. So really good, nice clutch card where you can cycle a piece that you need from your trash that you want to grab back sometimes, and then you get to choose another card that you have that you want to set up for the trash. Really good, again, from those clutch situations for cycling, which is why we play 3 copies of. And then last but not least for the level 4s, 3 copies of the Black Gatomon, specifically because it is a Dark Animal, and there's going to be a ways for us to play this card for free, so then it can utilize its rush capability to make attacks later in the stages of the game, which again, I'll show you guys how crazy it is in the combo segment, which you definitely want to play a 3 of at least. Let's now talk about our level 5s, 4 copies of Soul Loogamon here, which is the main level 5 of the deck. It does a bunch of stuff. It does Digivolve for 3. Its one Digivolving effect basically lets you play a level 3 or lower Dark Animal or SOC trait Digimon card back from trash. But if you have an Eiji underneath its Digivolution source, you can actually play a level 4, which you can see where Eiji gives you that kind of ramp up value as we continue building our stack right there. It has a when attacking, trash 1 card from your hand to gain 1 memory, and its inheritable is that your turn once returned when you play a card with Dark Animal or SOC traits, you get to unsuspend this Digimon so you can make multiple attacks. Again, really crucial for your finishing combo or when you go for the explosive play right there. So definitely a 4 of which you want to see as often as possible. Then we got 3 copies of Loogamon, which is sort of like our secondary level 5 of the deck. It is really good at helping you cycle more cards and trash more cards, and it is actually your main removal tool of the deck. Sometimes you find yourself in situations where you're not finding the specific pieces because this deck is piece reliant. This card will come in clutch and help you out a ton. First and foremost, it has an end of turn effect, which by deleting it, you get to draw 2 cards, and you get to actually grab a Loogamon back from your trash to your hand as well. And then to synergize with its on deletion, it has a on deletion effect itself, letting you trash up to 3 cards from your hand with Dark Animal or SOC traits so that you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon that's level 3. Now, for every card you trash from your hand, you get to increase the level by 1, so you can potentially delete level 6, 4, 5, and so on, which is really, really good to help you remove those cards. And then once again, drawing to help you find your pieces, trashing to set it up. Really, really good card, again, when you're stuck. And then to round off the level 5s, I like to play 1 copy of Chimeramon. Some of you guys might want to play a 2 copy of, just because you do play a lot of stuff back when you go for your top end combo, and you're going to potentially have a lot of level 4s which you can easily DNA into to sort of have a new Digimon on board and extend some certain combos depending on some situations to really, really overkill if you want to sometimes. So I definitely recommend at least a 1-of for those situations. That's it for the level 5s. Let's talk about our level 6s. We only play 1 version of a level 6 in this deck, where we have Fenriloogamon, which is our main boss Digimon of the deck. It does cost 4 to Digivolve. It has 12,000 DP, which is kind of powerful and pretty strong. It has a when Digivolving effect. It lets you play 1 level 4 or lower card with Dark Animal or SOC traits from your trash for free. Now, if you have Eiji underneath the sources, you get to add up to 2 maximum number of cards that you get to play. So you can play 3 bodies or even multiple Eijis if you want to with this entire effect, which is insane. Moving on to its when attacking once per turn effect, by deleting one of your opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon, you get to unsuspend this Digimon. Now for each other Digimon you have on board, you can increase the level of the Digimon that you're going to delete on your opponent's side by 1. So usually you get to play 3 things with a maximum combo, so then you can delete at level 6 or lower, and sometimes you might even have an extra body so they can delete at level 7, which is totally crazy. Just to unsuspend this, there's actually no drawbacks at all. You're always removing things, you're always making more aggressive attacks with this guy right here. And lastly, it has a third effect, which is very unique and one of a kind, which is your turn. The turn end condition is the opponent having 3 or more memory. So it's kind of confusing when you first read it, but really all it means is that your opponent turns doesn't start as long as the memory gauge is 3 or less on their side. If that is still confusing to you, stay tuned for the combo as I'll show you exactly how it works. But what it really means is that it gives you extra memory to work with than you usually have for your turn. And what that basically means is that this deck can play with even more memory than it usually can. Even though Loogamon just came out, there's already new support for it coming in BT15 Exceed Apocalypse. And there's going to be a new Loogamon and a new Loogarmon, which you can play alongside with the deck, and a couple of the cards that you can splash in as well to upgrade the deck even further. And it's just going to get even stronger and more powerful, which I'm really excited for. So if you guys are Loogamon fans, definitely be sure to subscribe. Turn on that notification bell to stay tuned when that deck profile comes out as well. And if you guys always want to see early deck lists and first drafts made by me and even updates constantly, definitely join the AVAULT Club, and I appreciate the support. But let's now talk about our Tamers. 4 copies of Eiji right here. It is your main dedicated tamer of the deck. It provides you a ton of value when you go into your combos and such, but itself does a lot as well. But first and foremost, it does have that usual security effect of all tamers that you get to play for free when it comes out of security. It has a starter main phase. As long as your opponent has a Digimon, you gain a memory immediately. Now it has a new main effect for tamers, which is called Mind Link. What Mind Link does is kind of like putting it underneath the source of another Digimon that you have, and then it will give it its inheritable right here. With its inheritable, all turns while this Digimon has Dark Animal or SOC trait, it gains Alliance and Blocker. And then it has a end of turn, you get to play 1 Eiji from this Digimon's Digivolution sources back without paying memory cost. A way to explain it, it's kind of like a 1-turn hybrid thing, where you normally would Digivolve your hybrid Digimon on top of your tamer, but instead for free, you get to tuck your tamer underneath your Digimon for that entire turn, utilize its effects, and then at any end turns, even yours or your opponent's, you can actually immediately slide it back out. And this is an entirely new mechanic, which may be a little bit difficult to grasp at first, but once you get used to it, it's actually really easy. You just keep coming in and out, and you get a lot of value in between, so it's really, really neat. And again, you definitely want to play 4 copies of this card because you definitely need to see it as soon as possible. Moving on next, we have 4 copies of Analog Youth. This is a really crucial key card because it helps you search and trash pieces at the same time, exactly like Dracomon. It has the secondary effect, which benefits a lot for purple decks as well when it comes to any on deletion that you have. You don't really have on deletion effects that you want to utilize as much other than Hell Loogamon, but when it comes up, it gives you really good value for that. Or whenever your stack is sort of in threat, Analog Youth can continue to help you immediately quickly build another one by hatching an egg so you can set up for next turn as well. So definitely, I recommend 4 copies of Analog Youth too. Then I like to run 1 copy of the Matt Ishida, which is the Memory Tamer from the Wolf of Friendship Starter Deck 16, the Medical Rumon Starter Deck. Like I mentioned, it's a Memory Tamer, which is kind of nice to have, and it has a secondary effect of all turns once per turn. When it affects trashes a card from your hand, you get to spend this Tamer to gain a memory back. So a really good alternative to help set up and give you enough memory to go for your combos sometimes, and this card itself is really good too. Then moving into our options. Brand new staple options here, guys. You definitely want to be running 4 copies of Wisdom Training just so you can find your pieces as quickly as possible. You want to utilize it with its delay effect so you can climb and digivolve through your stack very quickly, and just 1 copy of this, even that you have set up on the board, which I'll show you guys later, you can go for a full-on explosive combo just like that. So you want to see this as often as possible, and yeah, really good card for the memory you pay. Then moving on, we got 2 copies of Miss Memory Boost, so just a very generic good card to have in this particular deck. Once again, trashing potential pieces and giving you draw a card, and then with its main delay, you get to gain 2 memory back, which is a really good secondary card to have other than Wisdom Training as well. And then last but not least, just 1 Calling, just a really good clutch card. Sometimes you might have trash pieces that you want to grab back, and Calling is a great one to sort of help cycle through. Really helps you unbrick some situations as well sometimes, so that's why definitely at least a 1 of. Okay, for other tech choices, there's quite a lot for this deck as well that I considered adding, and you guys can consider adding as well. First is actually Gabumon right here, which is a really good alternative rookie that you can get into. The only reason why I don't play it is because it's not Dark Animal in its traits, so it can kind of be like clunky with some of your effects, and you don't really get to play it back from the trash either. But otherwise, this is your secondary one that you want to digivolve in the stack. Otherwise, this is also a pretty decent card to play a 2 of. Just in case you don't find your Loogamon, you can just digivolve to this one as your alternative rookie as you're building your stack instead. Other rookies you guys can run are the Floodgate ones, Gazi, and Psychmon, just depending on the meta and how it shifts and how you want to counter the meta, and depending on what popular decks are happening even at your locals. So Gazi to stop memory gain, Psychmon to stop reduction play cost, which is kind of neat for sure. And yeah, play and sort of add them up as you will. Then we have a Blockgatomon Uber, which is very interesting. It came out from RB1. It has a security effect which lets you play it, and it has an on play. It returns one of your opponent's Digimon card from the trash back to the bottom of the deck so that you can draw one, which is kind of neat counter to like some other purple decks as well. So pretty cool card that you can play as well, mainly because it's also a Dark Animal. Because we play a lot of Tamers, like 4 AGs and 1 Mat even, sometimes having a hybrid for game is kind of neat. Totally dependent on you. I don't feel like you really need it just because you have a lot of damage and attacks anyways. Another really good Dark Animal you could be playing is Dobermon, and if you're playing Dobermon, you can sometimes even consider splashing in the Alice McCoy package together to get the maximum full value. Dobermon's great for trashing and grabbing pieces back as well as a secondary level 4. If you don't want to play Fangmon, you can definitely add in a couple of these as well. So it really depends on your personal preference there as an additional suggestion. If you guys are looking for level 7s to play, which you don't necessarily need in this deck, but you may sometimes might want to. You might want to splash in a Death X or a Ruin Mode depending on the meta or depending on your own personal playstyle to sort of combat against the other decks as well. But generally, throughout playtesting, I feel like you don't really necessarily need it, but maybe sometime down the road I might add 1 or 2, a couple of these into the deck as well. So another suggestion, which is a little bit pricey, but if you guys are budget players, you don't really need to include it as much. Then we got the other Matt Ishida right here, the older one from BT2, which is your memory tamer with its on play, letting you grab something back from your trash that's purple, option, or Digimon, so kind of nice cyclability, but I kind of like the other new Mat a little bit more just because of the memory gain. And then another card I could recommend that's a little bit interesting is Rivals Barrage, where I do see some people play because sometimes you do trash cards from the top of your deck, and then being able to set up for its delay effect so you can grab anything back is kind of neat. Otherwise, it's mainly as a security bomb or just a main bomb, which this deck doesn't really have a ton of removal other than Hell Loogamon. So this is an alternative one if you do want to have a little bit of defensive and surprises when it comes to security. And then another really cool card for more offensive aggressive playstyle is actually Demonic Disaster. You get to delete one of your own Digimon to unsuspend one of your own purple Digimon so you can attack again, especially when it comes to with your Fenriloogamon combo, and then with its security effect lets you play a level 3 purple Digimon card from trash as well, which is kind of nice, but you don't get on play effects. So yeah, pretty neat consideration for, you know, pushing even more plays if you really need to sometimes. All right, combos. Let's start with the opening hand that you want to see for this particular deck. A lot of you guys might be thinking, because it's a stack building deck, you want to see your stack building pieces, such as your Loogamon, your level 4s, and your 5s and 6. Stop right there. It's really important. This is actually not the opening hand you ideally want to see. At least in my opinion, through playtesting, the cards you actually do want to see is you do want to find these pieces later as you're searching for them. The more priority cards are actually Dracomon right here. Fascomon, Analog Youth, multiples of them, Wisdom Training, multiples of them, and Missed Memory Boost. Now, here's the reason why. You don't only just want to build your stack, you actually need to trash very specific cards in your trash to get your maximum value, because when you do get into your Fenriloogamon later on, you want to be able to play stuff. So you actually want to be trashing cards such as your Blackadomon, your Fangmon, more dark animal stuff as much as possible, in even a Loogamon and even an Eiji as well, to really help set up your cards. And of course, the way I like to play it is I want to see my Loogamon more than anything else. So as I'm trying to find these pieces with these guys, they all do that for me. Except for Wisdom Training, but Wisdom Training is just a really, really good card to actually not forgo. So, definitely include that. You still want to find your pieces even though you can't trash. But these guys give you trash and draw power. So of course you hatch your egg, you would Digivolve into Loogamon right here, ready in the back, and you would just wait and continue to find your pieces and set up so that eventually you can pop off with even just one memory, which is really, really crazy, depending on what you have set up. So here, then you want to then find these pieces to go for that big combo. And you do want to set up like Blackadomons, the multiple of them that you have, the more you have as well, the better it is for you. And of course, if you ever have Eiji, you somehow get to play it for free from security, or even like set one from your hand to play around the memory gauge in early stages of the game, is great. Having multiple Eijis is always fantastic. You can either have it from your hand or trash, as long as you see it eventually somewhere on the board, whatever, it will work out with Loogamon perfectly. And that is the rest of the pieces you want to go for. So let's just say you search and you've done everything, you found everything, you're starting your turn at one memory. You push this up right here. You would then immediately use Loogamon to tuck an Eiji either from your hand or trash underneath it. If you had an extra Eiji on the board, then you had to gain a memory if your opponent has another Digimon on board. So really nice depending on those kind of situations. You gain a ton of memory with this deck non-stop. So after you did that, then you gain that memory from that. Then you want to use either Wisdom Training probably to go into a Loogamon right here. Now, sometimes you don't really necessarily need to use its when attacking effect, because once you have Soul Loogamon, what I like to do for the perfect combo is just go straight into Soul Loogamon. You can't really get to resolve both this and the Soul Loogamon at the same time, just because you only really get to choose to do one. What I'm trying to say is with the when attacking effects, you don't really get to try to get both of them for maximum value. But really important that you want to make sure you have Eiji on here. And then let's just say you pop another Wisdom Training, or you pop a memory boost or something like that, and then you can Digivolve into Soul Loogamon for 3. Now, if you pop the memory boost, then you get to retain your turn, but even if you pass your opponent's turn right here, you're still okay. Because what happens next is you get to actually play a level 3 or lower Digimon with Dark Animal from your trash. If you have Eiji, you can play a level 4. Now, ideally, what I like to go for is Blackadomon right off the bat right here. So then Blackadomon is on play. You play the Dark Animal. It's a gain a memory with Loogamon, and you get to gain a memory with Loogamon right here. So what happens here next is that you then want to go into Fenriloogamon. There's a way to get into it for even more efficient memory. So what you actually want to do is actually swing with Soul Loogamon right here, resolve its when attacking effect by trashing one card from your hand to gain a memory. And then by gaining a memory, you actually might want to even trash a card like Fenriloogamon ideally. Actually, you do want to trash specifically Fenriloogamon when you utilize this combo, because then what's going to happen next is going to use your Digi-Egg card Bowmon right here, or Baomon. Your turn, when a Digimon card with Dark Animal or SOC in its traits is trashed from your hand, you get to Digivolve into that. So by paying for the 4 cost, you'll be perfectly putting your opponent to 2 memory. You go into Fenriloogamon here at this moment. Fenriloogamon's when Digivolving is going to activate, letting you play a bunch of Dark Animals, and you can play up to 3 because you have Eiji here. You can play this, you can play this, you can play this Fascomon, you can play a Fangmon, you can play Blackadomon. I ideally like to play as many Blackadomons as possible. You can even play an Eiji if you really want to, depending on the situation. So make sure, that's why it's very important that you load up your trash as you're sort of finding pieces to build into your Digivolution. Because if you don't load up your trash, you can't get this maximum value when it comes to this combo. So you guys can see right here how crazy it is, because if you have bodies on board, this is when you can actually still have the opportunity to use Alliance. You suspend your Dracmon, for example, to give it extra 1k. Now it has 2 checks. If not, if you want to be safer with DP, you can suspend your Black Gatomon to give it 6k instead of and 2 checks. Now, because you played something, Soul Loogamon is going to let you unsuspend. That's what happens. The attack resolves and all that. Now, keep in mind, opponent's memory gauge is at 2. This is where the last effect of Fenriloogamon kicks in. Because they're not at 3, and as long as they're not at 3, it's actually still your turn. So you can continue to play. And this is where the OTK combo comes in, because we done 2 checks right there immediately. We swing again and use his when attacking effect this time, and we have so many bodies on our board, and we'll always guarantee 3 at least. We can delete opponent's Digimon, and then get to unsuspend. And then at that moment, we alliance again with something. Again, choose what you will if you want to do Dracmon, but let's just say even you do Black Gatomon just for extra DP sake. Again, 18k, 2 checks, 1 security left. And then you would swing once more, last security down. That's effectively 6 checks if your opponent was able to recover 1. And then you get to finish off with Black Gatomon. Or you can do vice versa, swing with Black Gatomon first, and then finish off with Fenriloogamon right there. So with Fenriloogamon's effect is, when does your opponent's turn actually end? Well, at this moment, you can either choose to play something more to, extend, like your board like that, and then you pass them to 4, or you just simply choose to pass, and then they move at 3, and then you end their turn just like that. Keep in mind, other than Alliance, you have a defensive mechanic, you have blocker as well. So if you want to play defensively, it helps out really nicely there too. But there you go, that's the OTK combo. And here's one more thing. Sometimes if you want to extend it even more and it's still your turn, you can even DNA into Chimeramon right here, and then make like a potential extra swing, just like that. And by DNAing into that, you can even potentially then go into another Fenriloogamon later on if you really want to, instead of 2 big stacks. So that's why Chimeramon's really neat, because it can give you that kind of extra attack every here and now and then, which is nice when it's a tech. And of course, one more thing is, if you don't see this perfect stack, what is your other game plan? Well, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes you're going to be having a Loogamon here on the board, or you most likely would have a Dracmon on the board. And again, you want to utilize your resources, right? Maybe you might want to Digivolve here into a Fangmon outside for 2 costs. Even using Wisdom Training is totally fine. And that's why I mentioned in the deck profile earlier, this is where Loogamon comes in the clutch. Because what you get to do is you get to swing with Fangmon, you get to use his on play or when attacking effect to return something back from your trash to your hand and then trash something else. So if you had a Loogamon in your hand, you could have say like, oh, I had a Fenrir in the trash. I need that Fenrir back. Grab Fenrir and then trash Looga. And then here with Looga in the trash, you get to use Dracmon's when attacking effect to Digivolve into a Dark Animal, which Loogamon is, to go for a swing right here. And then at the end of turn, whether it gets deleted or not is totally fine. If it doesn't get deleted, it's usually better, because then you get to delete it to draw 2 cards. And then to draw 2 cards, like I mentioned earlier, if you don't have a Loogamon, but if you trash one with Analog Youth or Miss Memory Boost earlier on and you have one in trash, you get to grab it back and then you can Digivolve right there. Or even if you didn't have one here in the beginning, you can use Analog to suspend, gain memory, hatch another egg, and then retain your turn and then Digivolve like that. So once you draw 2 cards, you get to do that to sort of follow up, but also don't forget with his undeletion effect, you can trash up to 3 cards in your hand, which ideally you're going to be trashing like your Black Gatomon, which I mentioned earlier, maybe cards like your Eiji and Fascomon, whatever you have, trash up to 3 to delete one of your opponent's Digimon that's level 6 or lower. So these are really good setup pieces, because then drawing and trashing, that's how we want to get into it, and Loogamon then helps you cycle through that. So then once again, you can eventually find your pieces stack and repeat that exact same combo, which I showed you guys just like there. And of course, like always, I highly recommend you guys to check out the gameplay video right here, right now, to learn and see this deck in action with all the combos and everything I talked about earlier on as well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys stay tuned for more BT14 deck profiles coming along. Make sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell to stay tuned. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video. This is AVAULT, signing